Use your powers for evil.
Evil? Your evil is mine.
Okay. It's Missy and the Master. All right. Do you see the red ball
Hold on.
back on Zencastr?
Yes, I see the red ball.
Okay, so that means we're recording.
Okay.
The chat doesn't affect your recording, so if you do want to send something, you can say it. And what'll happen is it will record your side, it will record my side, and I will download both MP3, and then this actually
It's spliced together.
It will put it together automatically if I ask it to.
Right.
So that's good. All right. Are you still good on time?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
maybe, all right.
Okay.
We'll plug through
Okay.
this. I
All
totally
right, well-
forgot. I'm totally thrown off my game, and I don't remember where we were.
Well, do you want to try to do this tomorrow night instead? I mean, that's okay with me.
No. I know. I'm trying to think now. We're gonna have to get through it. We're gonna have to get through this because
Okay.
All right.
You want
All right.
shake it off?
Yeah, I'm fine.
You want me to drive?
No, I'm good.
I don't mind driving.
I don't mind driving either, but
Okay.
I'm just trying to remember where I left off.
Well, we're going to start all over.
Okay, we'll just start all over then.
Yeah,
Okay,
because
yeah.
that way we'll have a clean beginning. We won't have to edit, so we'll just start over. So if that's okay, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Do I need to this red button is just blinking?
And that's exactly what it's supposed to be.
All right.
And you see that? Yeah. So you see the little green bars that are underneath our names?
Yes.
That shows it's recording.
Got it.
So you'll notice when I quit talking and you do, I'll just have white. So, and then this will edit our sound together. It'll put everything together. So we should be good.
Okay.
Now, if this F's up, then we're saying screw it. And we're going to start next week. But
I'm sure this is work because I've used Zencastr before a couple times.
Right.
But it's been a while.
Yeah.
All right.
So we'll start all over.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Take 3, take 4, I'm not sure what, but welcome back for episode 89. As I'm here, I'm Charles Skaggs. With me in the TARDIS, as always, my partner in time and my partner in crime, walking me through the Zencastr process, Jesse Jackson.
The master does not want us recording, Charles.
I think that maybe they're just this is karma for last week.
Yeah. Maybe because I was so grumpy. The Cybermen are putting their revenge on us, the revenge of the Cybermen via Skype.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. Wouldn't surprise me. But so we're going to talk about the Doctor Falls, everybody. For those who don't know, this is the Series 10 finale, written and directed once again by Stephen Moffat, directed by Rachel Talalay, and who wrote Part 1, World Enough in Time. And definitely just looking forward to finally, hopefully, hearing what you have to say about it, Jesse, as we try to get back on track.
Yeah, Charles, we have tried to record 3 times now. Um, so I'm trying to think of something new so that I will be entertaining to you. I'm excited about discussing this episode. Last week, I was in a minority. Most people thought it was a classic episode. I thought it was. The beginning and the end were great. The middle was not so much, but I think they really came through with a great season finale. I am excited. It's bittersweet because we know this is the next to last episode for Capaldi and Stephen Moffat, and this era of Doctor Who. I think in the weeks and months ahead, you and I will do some speculation episodes and can talk about some rumors and things we want. But for now, I have loved Peter Capaldi as the Doctor. I think he has brought a wonderful depth to the character, and I don't want him to go. To quote, to right, and I will love the Doctor when it was him, to that you will bring up in a few minutes of possible quotes.
Yes, exactly. So, real quick, I want to run down. We get the return of Michelle Gomez as Missy, John Simm as the Sixth Master once again, and we get the return of Stephanie Hyam as Heather in this story, which I thought was rather interesting and actually wrapped up Bill's storyline rather neatly, in my opinion. And
I agree. I want to talk more about that later, but I agree.
And surprisingly, we got the return of David Bradley, only David Bradley isn't playing his previous role of Solomon on Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, or his role of William Hartnell on An Adventure in Space and Time, the TV movie. He's actually playing, at long last, the First Doctor, making him the third actor to portray the role after William Hartnell and Richard Herndl in the Five Doctors special, the 20th anniversary special. So definitely looking forward to seeing that cliffhanger worked out, resolved in the Christmas special. But I thought it was a very surprising and yet interesting way to send off Series 10.
You just brought up something that I had not realized in my mind, but it hadn't clicked. The 50th anniversary kind of making of and the history of the Doctor, the space and time. They kind of gave us the origin story of the show, which was so well done. Mark Gatiss, correct?
Yes. Mark Gatiss wrote that, and I think that would be an excellent thing to review as we right before the Christmas special.
I totally agree, and I'm going to try to get Linda to watch it because I think she would appreciate the kind of behind the scenes and seeing that, because it's just a good movie whether you're a Doctor Who fan or not. Just it's kind of that behind the scenes, seeing it something. But you think about it, this actor Bradley wasn't playing the First Doctor. He was playing the actor who played the First Doctor. And there were a couple of scenes where we saw him being the Doctor, but not overly. And this time we did see him. He is the First Doctor. And there had been rumors about that. So I wasn't shocked by his return, but I was pleasantly surprised, like, okay, for once the rumors were correct. They're good rumors. And so I think this is, and as we talk about in the months and, ahead, this changing of the guard that we're going to talk about with this new showrunner, is there going to be almost a total new reboot and such? So I think this is wonderful. The latest Doctor and the First Doctor together. It may be July 5th as recording this, but I'm wanting it to be Christmas.
Maybe we should just have Christmas in July. How's that?
Absolutely.
All right. So let's dive in while we still can, because who knows as we attempt to record
Exactly.
this. So, first topic I want to talk about: Stand or Fall. State your case tonight. And this is a fix song from the 80s, so I apologies for, because I know you're not the biggest 80s music buff.
That's okay. Though we did get some positive feedback from your singing, did not we? Did that we will discuss later.
Well, sort of, yeah.
Okay.
I'll shrug it off, but yeah.
Okay.
But it was kind. It was nice. I appreciate it. So, even though I know I can't sing, but it's okay. So this is obviously the doctor, and who, since it's sort of his last story. Not really, because he decides, well, he doesn't want to go just yet. So it's Shades of the 10th Doctor all over again, because we're going to get a little farewell tour in the Christmas special. But but here he's facing off with both Missy and the Master. He starts off being held captive by them, and they kind of torment him a little bit. And that eventually leads him to he gets away, and there's some lovely scenes with him and Bill as he helps her start to come to grips with being a Cyberman. So I kind of wanted to get your take on those scenes.
I liked the scenes. I thought they were really well done. If there is a tragedy, and I realize that is an overuse of the word, but if there is something I'm sad about, is that we only got one season of Bill as a companion. I think she's been absolutely lovely and a great companion and a wonderful character. And we will talk about her ending
Right.
in a little bit, but reminded me a little bit of Souffle Girl, Osgood, right?
Yeah, Oswin Oswald, yeah.
Yeah, but
From Asylum of the Daleks, yes.
yeah, not in a bad way. I'm not trying to imply that Stephen Moffat is copying himself. I just think, there are certain themes and done, and I thought this was really well done. I was especially pleased that there was no, and I use air quotes, magic, where Bill was fixed and everything's good. The doctor talked a lot, and I will not quote it now because it's one of my favorite quotes, not only of this episode, but maybe of Doctor Who of all times, something about tears and hope. And I love the fact that Bill is, and I'm also, as I mix my metaphors and pop culture, the fabulous film, The Iron Giant, where, we are who we choose to be. And, where the Iron Giant says, I'm not a gun. And one of the best Superman scenes of all time. Bill's like, I'm not a Cyberman. I'm going to continue to be good and fight. And I love that. I thought it was bittersweet. I thought it was touching, and I thought it was great storytelling.
Well, what affected me with this was the doctor wanting to save Bill, but realizing there's nothing he can do about it because she's been converted. And so he's trying to give her some kind of hope. And that's when he brings up the, when there's tears, there's hope line. So, but it frustrates him, I think, because I'm sure he feels that Bill deserves better, as I'm sure a lot of fans did at this point, before we get what happened, the revelation with Heather later on in the episode. But this frustration is just one of the many things that drives him in this episode. There's what's happened to Bill at the hands of the Master, because basically the Master manipulated the whole situation with her. And then he has all these innocent people, these Mondasians, that are being attacked by the Cybermen. And we find out that it's like, oh, not just one group of Cybermen, it's 3 different um, versions in play. And so he's got threats on both sides, and he feels helpless because he can't really do anything for these people apart from just trying to keep them alive a little longer, and trying to keep as many alive for as long as he can. And that's where he has a confrontation with Missy about. And that is another great exchange where he just vents his frustration about that he's trying to be kind, which I thought was amazing.
Yes, it was, Charles, and I'm hoping in your best Peter Capaldi impression, you're going to read that for us later in the episode.
I will try.
Yeah, but
My voice is a little shot today, so apologies if it's not the best.
Once again, as we continue to be musical, think of your fellow man, put a little love in your heart. They have brought this up in this season about the doctor could just leave. And sometimes they make an argument that if I don't stop, like the Eaters of Light, it will later go on and destroy the world. But, in this case, I don't know if this is going to destroy the universe. It's just these people on this ship will die and the Cybermen will take it over. And the doctor doesn't leave. He has that beautiful quote about what he's doing. And I love this about him. And I love the idea that I'm doing what I can now. And I don't know about the future, but I know that right now these people need me and I'm going to be there and I'm going to do the best I can. Was just a beautiful sentiment, which is what I think brings why I at least love the doctor so much, because I do think he tries to do what's right and he tries to do the right thing all the time. So really well done, very touching. The scenes with him and Bill were wonderful. And I love just the idea that I can't ultimately defeat everyone. I'm just trying to if I can just get to the next step. And I mentioned this before we started recording, Charles, but for the 4th of July, Linda, my sister, and her husband and I all went to the 6th Floor Museum here in Dallas, which is actually at the School Book Depository, and it is a wonderful exhibit about Kennedy's life, the campaign, his presidency, the assassination, the conspiracies afterwards. It kind of covers all of it. But one of the things that really touched me is in his inaugural speech, he said, the things we want to do, we won't accomplish, and I'm butchering the quote, but we won't accomplish in 100 days. We won't accomplish in 1,000 days. We may not even accomplish in our lifetime or the world's lifetime, but let us begin. And in today's environment, I'm going to get a little political. Too many people are like, oh, it's too big. I can't. And for big things and even little things, one of our fellow podcast hosts is like, I've never watched Doctor Who. It's just overwhelming. And I said, start with either Matt Smith or Capaldi's run. And a couple other people are like, oh, but he'll miss. I'm like, no, but just let him start.
You can go back.
Just begin. And I think that's what the doctor is saying. I'm just going to begin.
Yeah.
I'm going to start. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I know if I don't start, nothing is going to change. And if I begin to try to make a difference, things have to get better, or at least I'm trying to make them better.
Yeah, I thought that was, excuse me, I thought that was just fantastic, to use a different doctor phrase, type of defiance from the doctor.
Yes.
It's what we love the best about the doctor is that no matter what the odds, no matter how the odds are stacked against him, he's still trying. And sometimes he doesn't always win. And this episode is sadly one of the episodes where he doesn't really win. He does help save some people, but ultimately he ends up paying the price. He's blasted by the Cybermen, which kind of starts the regeneration process that he ultimately holds up and says, nope, not going to do that. So we kind of get a payoff from the cliffhanger, or actually I take that back, from the foreshadowing at the beginning of World Enough in Time that you were not a fond of. But we did get a little payoff on that. And, that he's having to say goodbye to Bill, and he says goodbye to Missy essentially in this story because she tries. It seems like she wanted to redeem herself, and it didn't quite work out as you.
Okay, so are we saying that maybe Team Jesse may have been correct?
I think I was thinking about this. I think we're both right.
Yes.
I think you're more right than I am, but
Okay.
but there were some moments that Missy, she seemed like I wasn't entirely certain about. I gather she was playing the master and was going to help the doctor eventually, but I have to think there was some moments where she was enjoying herself being cruel.
Yes. Yes, I agree she was, and I think that was in her core.
So I kind of think, but ultimately, of course, she does decide to help the doctor, and that's
Yeah.
what. So I guess we'll give you points for getting it right.
Well, it's not a shock that the optimistic viewpoint wins in Doctor Who, correct?
Right, because yeah. So yeah, exactly. Optimism is such one of the main components of Doctor Who.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad that you were right, actually, on this one.
Thank you, Charles.
You're welcome. So congratulations.
Yeah. So anything else we need? I assume we're going to spend a few minutes on the Doctor later about, the regeneration and such. But is there?
Well, I do want to bring, since we're talking about the Doctor, we might as well talk about the other Doctor in the story. Where we have the Doctor again. We pick up with that foreshadowing at the beginning, that prologue, that flash forward, where the TARDIS arrives on a snowy planet after the Doctor says, "I don't want to go," just like he did in his 10th incarnation, and the TARDIS ends up taking her to this snowy planet, a very familiar snowy planet, as it turns out. Because we end up going back to the story, The 10th Planet, William Hartnell's last story, where we have the first Doctor who's going to be regenerating soon. So obviously this is what the TARDIS is trying to tell him by bringing the 12th Doctor back to meet his first incarnation, as his first incarnation is about to regenerate. And that leads us into the Christmas special, and we see we're introduced to David Bradley as the latest actor to play the first Doctor, which again is just fantastic. And I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the idea, and one of the rumors is that we saw Capaldi's eyebrows in the 50th anniversary special, the Day of the Doctor, where, and there was discussion on, would they maybe kind of tell that story in the Christmas special as kind of a wrap up? Could be with the first Doctor there. In a lot of ways, a friend of mine said, what I want to see? I want to see at Adam West's funeral every actor who's played Batman in the modern era at that funeral. Just, and I want to see that picture. And I know we can't get Eccleston, Tennant, Smith, McGann, all making cameos in, Capaldi's final Christmas special. And I realize that's not practical, but I'd love to see that. But to see the first Doctor, and in a way that we've already established that actor playing, the William Hartnell, so it just makes sense. I am, as I said, come on Christmas in July. So I still don't think you needed the tease that showed him in the snow, showing the regeneration. I don't think we needed that, because I don't think it added to the suspense of the end of this episode, where we do see him, he's trying to resist, and then we have that great line where, well, you may be a doctor, but
Yeah.
I am the Doctor.
Right.
So I don't know what else to say except, yes, this should work perfect, and it should make a really fun. Tennant met the Davison in that little quip.
In Time Crash.
Quick, yeah, that is amazing.
A little mini episode.
Yeah. So we certainly know that they can write that kind of episode. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this.
Yeah, because that was also written by Stephen Moffat.
Right.
So, interestingly enough, that line that that the first Doctor says about being the original, that is actually a reset of Richard Herndl's line from the Five Doctors, where he meets up with his fifth incarnation, Peter Davison, and so that's a nice. It was a nice little nod to where you have the first Doctor meeting the current Doctor, and again, it's another Easter egg in an episode filled with Easter eggs.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
So
what next, sir?
Our next topic I want to talk about. Bang, bang, my baby shot me down. And that is a Nancy Sinatra classic, which was popularized in the movie Kill Bill. But
I see what you did there.
Well, not necessarily, because actually this is a reference to Missy and the Master, who end up taking themselves out. And so I want to get into Missy and the Master's dynamic, where we have the Master, the sixth Master, John Simm's Master, being a very classic Master, who just hates the Doctor with a passion, wants nothing more than to bring him harm, and to, which is why he manipulates Bill into becoming a Cyberman. And on the other hand, we have Missy, the seventh Master, his successor, as we find out officially in this story.
Or do we?
Well, it certainly implies that until something else comes along.
Absolutely. So I'm just saying.
Because there's a point at the end where Missy says, okay, now you're going to die and regenerate into me.
Yes.
So.
And doesn't he say that?
He does. So
okay.
It seems likely that yes.
And so, yes. So
this would make her the
didn't
seventh,
say it. He
master.
said it, right?
Yeah. So it was going to happen.
Right. So I'm just saying there's a little out there if they want to say that there was another master between, Sims and Michelle Gomez. I think, and I do need you to explain why, because he used the full force, the regeneration won't work. That doesn't make any sense to me. You're dead or mostly dead? I didn't get that, but I love the interaction of the two masters.
Right.
I loved, it's very clear, as someone posted, the master is in love with himself.
Right. But I think the master thinks Missy is exactly like him.
Right.
So, but as it turns out, Missy is honestly trying to change. And we still don't really we didn't really get an explanation as to why. What
No,
triggered
we
this?
didn't.
So that's kind of left hanging. I'm hoping we only have one more episode left, but I'm afraid we're not going to get an explanation on that.
I don't think we're going to either, Charles. And I think that's a sadness. I mean, not a big sad, like we're not getting Pearl
Right.
Mackie again, but I
It
would have
just,
liked to seen that story. I would have, like many things, you wish there was able to do a Doctor Who kind of TV movie or
right.
something where you're like, let's do a Michelle Gomez, spinoff movie and
Well,
talk about how did she get arrested and everything. Maybe Big Finish Audio will do that. But she is trying. She is fighting her more diabolical, self. I think she's trying to do better. I think she doesn't like her former self as much as the master likes her.
right.
He seems fascinated by that. So, yeah, I thought all their scenes were great, and I was surprised at the way those two ended together. When she said, "I've timed it well enough that you will get to your TARDIS and you can leave," and he says, "Regenerate into you," and so I was like, "Okay, that's nice." And then I did not expect him to shoot her and to kill her.
Well, it just we there hasn't been the master, unlike the doctors, which tend to work with one another from time to time when it's really important. We haven't seen the master working with another master until now, and it seems like the reason for that is, well, hey, um, they can't trust each other because the master is eventually going to stab the other master in the back and vice
Yeah.
versa. And we have that here. Missy, when we talk about that, there wasn't much of an explanation about why she decided to change, but we did get possibly a hint in that the John Simm's master um, makes a comment about Missy having empathy. So maybe it's just that because this particular incarnation, um, her persona had an empathetic nature that
Yes.
maybe this is what triggered her desire for redemption.
I totally buy into that, Charles. I think the empathy is a great point.
Until we get a better explanation, that's all I can
Yeah.
speculate on.
No, I think that's wonderful. And were you, as a connoisseur of all things Whovian, were you surprised that she was shot in the back, or did you go, yes, that's perfectly in the master's kind of personality and a storyline you were not shocked about?
Well, I, I wasn't really shocked for several reasons. One, because yes, it's the master, and you had John Simm's master not being happy with Missy wanting to ally herself with the doctor. But you also had the master just being, his usual cruel self, and thought after Missy had taken him out that, okay, well, obviously I'm not going to let this go, and here's some payback, and so he shoots her with a laser screwdriver. Now, you brought up the fact that he said that her regeneration wouldn't work. But I have to think because of Missy, because obviously at some point down the road we're going to see the master again, and it may not be Missy, but we didn't see Missy regenerate, for one, and two, I have to think that Missy might be suspicious of herself and would probably try to sabotage that laser screwdriver so he couldn't hurt her with it.
Yeah, I think that too.
So, because I have to think that the master has to get out of there somehow, and the only real way is that, well, Missy doesn't regenerate, or if she does regenerate, then she gets out. But um, that obviously there has to be either a regeneration or Missy just comes back in some future episode down the line.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think I'm glad you had talked about that. You weren't surprised, because I think,
Because we did know Michelle Gomez might be leaving along with Peter Capaldi.
yeah, and she has said in interviews that she thinks it's just the right time. She's enjoyed it, but she thinks that it seems to be the right time. So we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah, maybe.
But I loved her ending. I loved, not just because I think I kind of, my theory paid out a little bit more than yours.
Right.
I just thought it was a really nice that the doctor still was alone. He did not have someone by his side, but she wanted to do that for him.
Right. Now, just because Michelle Gomez might say that she's not coming back, well, hey, John Simm, we didn't expect to see him after he left with David Tennant. So, and he turned up again 2 doctors later. So, who knows?
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's certainly a possibility. If nothing else, they could always, it could be Missy from some point before she gets killed.
Yes.
So we don't.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
And I don't know. I'm not sure if. Yeah, I mean, I still want to think that Missy isn't dead, though it does look like she is, right? So they're certainly implying that.
Right.
So yeah.
But again, we're not gonna totally kill off the master. The master will come
No.
back eventually.
Absolutely.
Somehow. So obviously somehow Missy gets out of there, whether it's in her current incarnation or a new one.
Yeah.
So at some point we'll find out. Now let's move on to our third topic. We Are All Made of Stars, which is a Moby song. We Are All Made of Stars. And this is a reference to, of course, Bill and Heather. Because, the girl with the star in her eye. We get the return of Heather, which I thought bookended Bill's story and Series 10 in a very nice way. And also gave us, Bill fans, a nice way for her character to end rather than, oh, she's a Cyberman. Without negating the fact that she became a Cyberman.
So someone criticized, because of course it's the internet,
right?
That this was very similar to Clara's ending, right? That she's going to go see the world, and then she's going to come back later to, meet her fate.
Right.
And someone brought up a really nice point that, don't forget, Doctor Who was built for children, and so a fairy tale ending is not a bad thing. I did not, till someone pointed it out to me, go, oh, I guess this is similarly. What I thought is, oh my goodness, what a lovely ending for Bill. Because they had that connection. It's a nice callback and a closing the loop on, Heather didn't want to leave her because she had promised she would come back. And then to have her, you're now like me, I think is great.
And we can be together.
Yeah, we can be together.
So, I know the criticism you're talking about. Um, I don't see this as being exactly like Clara. I really don't, because for one thing, we didn't get set up for Clara's exit in her first story. That
Mm-hmm.
way back when we saw Oswin in Asylum of the Daleks, that tease, but when we're first introduced to the modern Clara in
Mm-hmm.
the Bells of St. John,
Yeah.
that we didn't get like a payoff for whatever was in the Bells of St. John in her final story, Face the Raven, or
Mm-hmm.
after that, that it wasn't set up, and this is why I'm willing to give Stephen Moffat a pass, because he kind of did set it up in the pilot, because he said, there was that implication that, hey, I'll see you again, and um, it felt like Bill and Heather's story was unfinished, and that we were going to get some kind of resolution whenever she was written out of the show, which just turned out to be this story.
Yeah.
And again, it bookended the season. It had a beginning and it had an end, and it ended with Bill.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think that's
so I just
yeah.
it doesn't feel like Clara to me.
Right.
It feels like Moffat actually planted those seeds in the pilot and then paid off in the Doctor Falls,
Yeah.
because he doesn't mention like, hey, I left you one of my tears so that I could find you.
Yes.
And if you notice, Bill leaves a tear for the Doctor so that she could find him.
Yes.
So now I have to wonder, well, I'm guessing we'll probably see Bill, even if it's just a cameo, in the Christmas special.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm guessing we'll probably see Clara too somehow.
Yeah. That is a rumor, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
it would make
So
sense, you could see the 12th Doctor's companions one last time. So,
yes.
but yeah, I just thought that was a lovely ending. Thankfully, Bill wasn't just, oh, I'm a Cyberman and now I'm dead.
Yeah.
So she doesn't die. She basically transforms into this water creature like Heather. And Heather makes a comment that, hey, if you want to be human, I can make you human. So essentially,
Yeah.
Bill could be human once again. But she says, well, hey, you want to travel the universe first. And she takes her up on it. So maybe at some point Bill will decide to become human.
Absolutely. And so we might see her again.
Right. But it's definitely better than being a Cyberman.
Yes, and I love the romantic ending of this, that they are together and they are going to, explore the world together. And I echo what you said. This was set up for a payoff.
Right.
So versus, with Clara and me heading off to the world, right?
Right.
I'm not saying it wasn't set up. It was a fun, kind of ending, and I do love the idea that they're traveling around the world in a 50s diner. But this just seemed so. They lived happily ever after. This is, a romantic fairy tale from, our first, our first, gay character.
Right.
I just think it's a lovely ending, and I'm really happy with it.
It just feels like to me that Series 10 was a book. The pilot was chapter 1 of that book, and The Doctor's Falls is the 12th and final chapter of that book. Maybe with an epilogue being the Christmas special.
Yes, I do. It's almost like they kind of have on the Harry Potter, right? The kind of future chapter.
Yeah, we're in the 7th and final book.
Yeah,
Deathly Hallows, where they kind of jump forward and catch up to what they're doing,
Right.
20 years later or whatever, or 50.
And to show that an orphanage with a support system, of loving system, can grow up not terrorized and with the scars that Harry had. And I actually think that when I rewatched this season all in a row, I may have less issues with last week's episode, knowing that it's a full chapter. Because now that I think about this, part of Bill's journey, she spent 10 years waiting for the doctor, and they wanted to show that. And then you get her becoming a Cyberman, and then the reveal of Heather / the pilot saving her. Maybe you needed that middle section to show the drudgery and her trying to hold on to hope, and then to lose it. And at the last minute, she gets the kiss that wakes her up. Her foot fits into the slipper. Whatever, fairy tale cliche you want to give, she gets. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the whole business with her becoming Cyberman was probably so that the doctor could kind of say goodbye to her a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't think we've seen that. I think that, and Bill even makes this comment that, hey, like, I'm going to see you again. Or I hope to see, she says, it's a big universe, but I hope to see you again. So I'm hoping that that'll pay off in the Christmas special.
I think so too. I hope so too.
All right. So, and then now I don't really have a separate topic for Nardole, but I just want to talk really quickly about how Nardole, I think he kind of gets the short shift in this one. That he kind of like gets left, so like, hey, I have to take care of these people on the the Mondasian ship.
Maybe, but I also think he's found kind of a home.
Right.
And so I think there's the lady liking him. I don't remember her name.
Hazrin.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a nice little thing. So we'll see what happens. But I liked it, and he had a couple of great lines. Him once again, he really fits. We talked about this last time. He fits in well. He seems in a lot of ways is a chameleon that works really well. So I'm happy to see that. I will, if I had to give, we don't give out season awards, but if we did, the most surprising character, because I will be very candid, when I saw he was coming back, I was like, because he wasn't that memorable in the Husbands of River song.
I think a lot of us were just stunned. They're like, okay, why do you want to bring this character back?
Yeah.
And fortunately, Matt Lucas surprised us all. And I think I credit Stephen Moffat for that, because, the way the character was written was definitely different from how he was in the Husbands of River song. And Moffat made that adjustment, and I think it was a good one.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I really was happy. I think that, he had some charm to him.
You're actually sad to see him go.
I am sad to see him go. I think he's been really nice, and it's funny that how much charm he had, and then him being so sad at the end, so knowing he'd never see them again, was just lovely. And I was like, okay, this is cool. This has been very nice, and so well done on him. I do think he is definitely surprised us all, and I will put him as a really solid companion that I would have liked to see more of. And I know, we say that a lot, or at least I do, because I love the idea of seeing these older companions, but Nardo would have been one I would have wanted to see. Yeah.
I agree. All right. Anything else about this story you want to talk about before we move on?
I I think once again it just shows it's a wonderful. The Doctor didn't have to stay, but he stayed because he needed to and he wanted to, and I thought him fighting the good fight and interacting with the people were good. So Bill, the children kind of being afraid of Bill, but another one not. It was just a lovely story and a great way to end this season. And in a lot of ways, Capaldi's time as the Doctor.
I totally agree. I'm totally with you on that one. Okay. All right. Do we have? You want to do best lines, or you want to do your rating first?
So I'm going to let you go first because I stole your rating last time. So I'm going to let you go first.
Oh, okay. So we'll do ratings. Okay.
Okay.
My rating shouldn't probably surprise people. 10 out of 10 dematerialization circuits. I really love this episode. It was the most emotionally affecting I've seen on Doctor Who in quite some time. And it was just great performances all around, and a great cliffhanger to send us off to the Christmas special.
Charles, you and I are in sync. I give this 10 out of 10 upgraded apples. I loved this episode. I just think, in fact, when we finish recording, I'm going to go eat dinner and I'm going to watch it again.
Good for you.
Yes.
So I'd say it's safe to say this episode rebounded off of part 1.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, I may pull one and watch them both again in a row.
Now that you know what to expect.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, good. I hope it helps. I hope the second part helps you appreciate the first part more.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. So, best lines of the episode. You go ahead.
This was an episode filled with great lines.
Right.
In fact, Entertainment Weekly had an article, the 12 best lines of this episode.
Right, because the 12th Doctor, of course.
Yes. So I cheated and printed those out. So because I agreed with all of them. So I just think there's a lot of greatness up there. And, so their number 12 was doctors are not required from the Cybermen. And I agree. That was a chilling quote. It really set kind of the phase. As a new fan, I tend to enjoy the one-off villain, monsters. And, like I've said, have we gone to the Dalek too much? Have we gone to the Cybermen too much? But this was a really well done Cybermen story, and I liked it a lot.
All right. And the 12th Doctor responds, though, to that line. He says, "I'm not a doctor, I'm the Doctor."
Which is wonderful because you've already given the quote.
Right.
Where David... Yeah, but you mentioned it, right?
Yeah.
In the discussion. Okay, so all right, well, I'll save it for you then. Well, why don't you go ahead and give that, because I think that's perfect, because once again, they're setting up.
Right.
Then you get a call back at the very end. Go ahead and give that quote. Yeah,
so what Jesse's referring to is the 12th Doctor saying, "I'm the Doctor," after he lands on that snowy planet and sees someone. And, of course, it turns out to be the first Doctor who replies, "The Doctor? No, I don't think so. No, dear me, no. You may be a doctor, but I am the doctor. The original, you might say. And again,
Absolutely.
that's a great nod to Richard Herndl, the previous actor who played the first Doctor in the Peter Davison 20th anniversary special, The Five Doctors. So
Yeah, absolutely lovely.
definitely worth checking out. And that's one I definitely want to cover someday.
Obviously, me being, when I'm not being Captain Grumpy,
Right.
when I'm being affected by red kryptonite, I love the line where there's tears, there's hope.
That was great.
By both of them, right?
Right.
It is just so lovely, and there is much about the Doctor that is about hope. And so I just love that. It was great.
All right. Do you have any other quotes? Because the last quote I have is a really big one.
Okay, so let me go through quickly the Entertainment Weekly, and then we'll give the big one.
Okay.
Number 11, like sewage, smartphones, and Donald Trump, some things are just inevitable. That was great.
Another shot at Donald Trump.
Yes. Number 10 was 10 years up there chatting. You missed her by 2 hours, which is a great thing about, even though you have a time machine, at times, you still miss these things. Like he did not ever go see the Brigadier again.
Right.
So number 9, the ultimate Apple upgrade by Nardole when he
Right.
was showing the Apple. Number 8, the Master says, "Is the future going to be all girl?" And the Doctor, "We can only hope." I thought that was a really good line.
Right.
And then Missy's number 7 was, "It's time to stand with the Doctor."
Oh, that was a great quote.
Yes, and Michelle Gomez played it well. Number 6, and this was where Nardole, they just killed this, is, "You're wrong, I'll never be able to find the words." And there was such a poignancy and sadness to that.
That was another quote I had, but I figured I'd save that, let you have that one because.
Oh, thank you.
Because it was a really great quote.
Yeah.
And another Nardole just breaks your heart.
Yes. You also already mentioned number 5. It's a big universe, but I hope to see you again.
Yep.
Which was lovely. And you also said the Doctor, number 4, no stars. I'd hope there be stars, which breaks my heart just seeing this.
It's a very poetic line.
It is. And then number 3 was where there's tears, there's hope. And 2 was you may be a doctor, but I am the Doctor. And the first could be, I'm guessing, the Doctor's speech when the Mr. and Missy tell him he can't win.
Yeah. So, all right. So you want me to run that down? Okay.
I'd love that.
All right. Winning? Is that what you think it's about? I'm not trying to win. I'm not doing this because I want to beat someone, because I hate someone, or because I want to blame someone. It's not because it's fun. God knows it's not because it's easy. It's not even because it works, because it hardly ever does. I do what I do because it's right, because it's decent, and above all, it's kind. It's just that. Just kind. If I run away today, good people will die. If I stand and fight, some of them might live. Maybe not many, maybe not for long. Hey, maybe there's no point to any of this at all. But it's the best I can do, so I'm going to do it. And I'm going to stand here doing it until it kills me. And you're going to die too, someday. And how will that be? Have you thought about it? What you would die for? Who I am is where I stand. Where I stand is where I fall.
So that's the second great speech that the Doctor has had. In the War of the Zygons episodes, he had another one talking about the box.
Oh, you mean Invasion of the Zygons?
Yeah, the Zygon War episode.
The Zygon invasion. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah. So, absolutely.
I like this one better than the Zygon speech, actually.
I do too, and I do think
Capaldi's has some
you
good
can
speeches.
I can never remember when on the late night show, and why am I drawing a blank on the host? Crap, the Scottish guy. We'll take this out.
You mean Craig Ferguson?
Yeah, Craig Ferguson. When he did the kind of, they wouldn't let him do the kind of opening, and then it leaked. But he talked about,
Yes.
And do you remember right offhand what beats? I don't have that quote handy. I should have looked it up, but this reminds me of that.
Yeah.
This whole, and sometimes I'll go back to it, and then
intellect and optimism triumph over brute force and cynicism.
Yes. The late great Harry Chapin was interviewed once, and he talked about his grandfather was a painter, and his grandfather told him, he said, Harry, I would have liked to have been more successful. I would have liked to have done well, but I think there's two kind of tireds in the world. There's the tired when you fight someone else's fight, you live somebody else's dreams, you do what other people want you to do. And when you're tired, and you might even win, but you're tired. And then there's the good tired, which is when you fight your battle, you fight your fight, you do what you believe in, and even if you lose, you have a good tired. And I think the Doctor is good tired. I think the Doctor tries to, and he is human despite having two hearts. He doesn't always win. He doesn't always make the right choices, but he tries. He tries to be kind. He tries to do the right thing. And I think this was an absolutely wonderful summary of why
his Doctor, for one thing.
Yes. And why, as much as I love Star Trek, and Star Trek will always be my first love, but, Doctor Who has moved, just like the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson were my first musical love, and Bruce Springsteen has moved above that. As much as I love Star Trek, and there is room in my heart for both, the Doctor has moved a little bit above that, because when it's good, when it's great, it is more about ourselves and trying to do the right things. And that's just a beautiful thing, no matter what time of your life, to have someone, an example of someone, even when it's hard, I'm going to do the right thing because it's kind and it's done. And that's why this episode got a 10.
Well, that's beautiful. I love that explanation.
Yeah.
That seemed like very, very from the heart.
It was. In fact, I have a little tears in my eyes just talking about it.
Are you are you a little verklempt?
I am a little verklempt. So,
by the way, I did butcher that quote. It's intellect and romance triumph over brute force and cynicism.
No problem.
Yeah.
So, I know we're hitting an hour. Do you have a quick reverse of polarity, or are we going to save it for later?
It's not this one. It will take a little bit to run down, but not too long.
Okay, that's fine, because we have our feedback.
That's true. Well, tell you what. Why don't we just do the feedback?
Okay, good deal.
Because I think our fans and our listeners deserve more than just me prattling on. So let's hear from the fans and the listeners.
That sounds great. So you have copies. I do not. So if you will read them, I will comment. Thank you.
No problem.
Charles is master of our email address. Yes.
Well, just trying to help us because, iron out those issues that we had. So hopefully.
Absolutely.
All right. So first one, we get the return of Holly from Wisconsin.
Yay.
Yay. So she writes in, Hey, Charles and Jesse. Wow, I'm still trying to process what happened in the episode. Jam-packed full of things. The doctor's speech to Missy and the Master was powerful. The exit of Missy and the Master makes me wonder if we won't see the Master again in another incarnation. Of course we will. That's my little aside. Yes, somehow, somewhere, the Master will return. Don't worry. The ending of the episode has me already wanting the Christmas special to be here. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, and I'm sure Jesse does as well. Hey, Christmas in July sounds like a good idea. Oh, so I hear from Jesse. But I know we're all going to have to wait until December to see how this all plays out. And how many versions of the Doctor do you think they're going to have show up in the Christmas special? Well, as far as I know, just the first Doctor. But it wouldn't surprise me if, maybe, David Tennant or Matt Smith make an appearance as well. But who knows? Who knows, eh? Who knows? So that's Holly from Wisconsin. So thank you, Holly, for writing in.
Yeah, and Holly, I just want to say I agree with your point. And I appreciate your consistency of sending us feedback. You sent in an American Gods every time for our roadside attractions, and you've done this, the Doctor, and I hope you continue because it was wonderful. If I had a secret wish, I would love Eccleston to make an appearance, just because I thought he was amazing in The Leftovers, and I just, the small fly in the ointment of the 50th anniversary is not having him part of it, and if he could have, to kind of, even though he wasn't involved with Moffat, except, on those two amazing episodes, you could argue two of his best episodes as the Doctor, it would be neat to see this ninth Doctor make an appearance. I'm just throwing it out there to the Karma Doctor Who gods that if we can make that happen, I'd love it.
Yeah, I think we all would love to see that, but I think it would also kind of take away.
Could be. Yeah, you're right.
So maybe we won't see any other Doctors besides the first Doctor.
Yeah. And I don't think we're going to see, except a cameo, and we will talk about this more. We will, as we get closer to Christmas, we will do a speculation episode, and we'll kind of talk about things. I think the Doctors are going to be their own companions. I do not think we will have I think it is going to be my hope, a lot of banter between them two and interaction back and forth, and I just think it's going to be lovely.
All right. So so the next person that wrote in was Paul Beck, but I'm going to go ahead and skip to Davia Archibald.
Davia. Okay, yes.
Davia. Okay, so yeah. Davia. Apologies for that, Davia.
And I don't know which one it is. You did one, I did the other. That way we're covered either way.
Exactly. But I thought this one would probably fit best in the middle because it's kind of a contrasting opinion to the reaction. So Davia writes in, this ending does not make me feel any better about Bill's treatment. I feel that she has been treated as a disposable companion. Well, I respectfully disagree, but I appreciate your opinion.
Yeah.
And respect your opinion. She was turned into a Cyberman by the Master just to jab the Doctor. This was while the Doctor was playing games with her life by having Missy play Doctor to learn to be better. Her death is made worse by the fact that the Doctor had subliminally told her to wait. It feels like Bill was punished, or at best just an afterthought. I especially hate that she is rescued by the pilot from the season premiere. Are all lesbians interchangeable? It's the second companion in a row to be killed and then resurrected to travel for eternity. Be ever wonderful. And that's Davia signs off. So thank you, Davia.
I totally understand your thought process. And and just like, last week I had my hot Doctor Who opinion that was in a minority. I really respect your thoughts. I was okay with this ending of Bill. In fact, I found it quite charming and lovely. But I get if you didn't. And I think, one of the things I used to love when Ronald Moore was doing Battlestar Galactica, he did a podcast where, he did a commentary of every episode. And when people brought up issues, he would say, I think that's a fair get. I think your point is fair. And so I don't agree with it, but I think you have a fair thought on it. And I certainly do not think this as all lesbians are flexible or disposable, because I think they established pretty well in the first episode that Bill really liked Heather a lot, and I think Heather really liked her. So I don't see it that way, but I respect that you did, and we'll kind of go from there. Charles, how about you?
Yeah, I saw Bill and Heather as essentially like star-crossed lovers, literally. So I also respect Davia's opinion on this. I think it's a bit too cynical, perhaps, but she's certainly entitled to it, and I respect that as well. It's just not opinion that I share. Doctor Who tends to bring out the optimist in me, and it certainly brings out the optimist in Jesse. So if Jesse could go from ranting one episode ago about how much she just hated that first part, and then turns around and gives this episode a 10, I think that says a lot.
Yeah.
So,
and I do think that we all bring our own viewpoints, baggage into episodes, and like I hate two-part episodes, so I know that was part of the baggage I had in this thing, so I appreciate that. I think it's really lovely for you to share, and I am so glad that you cared enough to give us the update, and I appreciate it. And we'll see if you feel a little better after the Christmas special.
Yeah, I hope so. Hopefully you enjoy the Christmas special, and thanks for writing in. And
absolutely,
even though we don't agree with your opinion, we still respect you for it.
Yeah, and we love, wonderful things about this is, if you're not, if everyone, it's absolutely wonderful, it makes for a pretty boring discussion. So yes, thank you.
Yeah, not even, not everybody is going to have the same opinion about things. And I think it's good to have that kind of diversity.
Absolutely.
And, we definitely appreciate Davia writing in. So,
absolutely.
Thanks.
And do we have another one?
Yeah, one more. So we have Paul Beck. So this is Paul from Australia.
Yeah, right, Paul.
Right. Yeah, so a long distance email. Get the long distance email. Hi, Charles and Jesse. Wow, what a series ending. There was so much to take in, and I feel like I'm still processing it. There were aspects I liked and other parts I'm not too sure about. The resolution of Bill's character I thought was too convenient and too easy. To have the girl from the first episode return to save her, though it was a surprise. It was way too easy. Why did she return to help her at that moment? Bill's been in strife all season. Why didn't she help her earlier? And what's with the Master and Missy? Loved the interaction between the two, but has Moffat, as the outgoing showrunner, really killed that character off? No, of course not. Don't worry, the Master will be back. Trust me. That's putting a stamp on the series. What I did like was Peter's acting. I thought he was so good in this episode. He has been so strong over his series as the Doctor, and the ending with the first Doctor appearing has me hanging out for the Christmas special. Can't wait. Overall, I think this has been a strong season. I'm going to miss Nardole. I can't wait to hear what you both think. Hope Jesse is okay. Have never heard him so fired up over an episode as with last week's show. I must admit, he made some valid points.
Oh, nice.
But that's what's fun about discussing Who, listening to everybody's viewpoints. Yep, just like we talked about with Davia.
Yeah.
Sending you best wishes from Sydney, Australia, Paul. So thank you,
you, Paul. Yes.
So, and ending on a little more positive note, but
Yeah.
but Paul wasn't going to sugarcoat what he didn't like about it either. So
yeah, and I get that. I think this explains, at times why I give Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat some leeway, because you're trying. The Doctor Who audience is a very diverse audience, right? Like,
right.
If you ask, we were packed a few years ago in Dragon Con. There were just easy hundreds of Whovian fans in one theater, and we were going to watch A Solemn of the Daleks.
Yeah.
The local affiliate had gotten the okay. BBC America was going to let us do it, and so it was on the night it was premiering, but we were going to get to see it like an hour early there in Dragon Con. And so as we're all piling in, getting our seats, the master of ceremony says, okay, everyone shout out your favorite Doctor. And you just this roar. And he said, it's just what I thought it would be. There's so many answers, you can't hear one. And I thought that was a beautiful example of the diversity of Who fans. And, I have had people that absolutely adore Donna. Donna is not one of my favorites. I know people that can't stand Martha. Martha is, if I have to, one of, my favorite companion. Davison is your Doctor. I mean, you
right.
love Peter. But
I love them all.
Yeah, and so do I. And so I think that's a perfect example of you can, and that's, we love the feedback, because with the exception of last week's episode where I didn't like, right, you can dislike parts of the episode and still enjoy it. So thank you. Great feedback all the way around, and it was wonderful. And we hope that Charles is very organized, and he gives me plenty of leadway on when we are doing our rewatches during this long
because now we have
warm summer.
We now have another hiatus, don't we? All the way to Christmas, so we've got some time to fill.
Yeah, and so we will go through some classic episodes, and we'll go through some modern era rewatches, and we'll do some stuff for it. We'll hopefully get Ken or Karen or some other people on here, but it'll mostly be just Charles and I talking about classic Who. So we hope you guys continue to give us feedback. What else do we got to talk about, Charles?
Well, just going to try to find out what we're going to talk about next time, since we have no more Doctor Who until Christmas, at least new Doctor Who.
So as we program on the air, do we want to do a summary of Capaldi's Era, or do we want to let that soak in a little bit? Do we want to do a summary of the season, or do we want to just take a fresh break, and in 2 weeks, let's pick a older Doctor episode and say, a classic episode for us to watch? What do you think?
I think maybe it's the fact that we started off doing this episode like 3 or 4 times before we finally got going. That part of me is like not really wanting to go back.
Okay.
And rehash what we've already covered.
Okay, sounds good.
So I kind of am more inclined to take a clean break, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's good. So what we'll plan to do is So
I'm going to have to try to come up with some classic Who stories that you can enjoy via iTunes.
Yeah, that sounds great. We'll do that, and we'll have a discussion. I think that'll be a lot of fun. I do want, maybe in August or September, I would like to do a wish list of people we'd like to be the Doctor. I know that's not your favorite kind of episodes, but I think that would be kind of fun for us to kind of be silly and talk about who we'd love to see, maybe in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we can do that. Why don't we do that with a guest host?
Yes, I think that would be great.
Just joining us.
Yeah, so if you're interested in talking about that, and, what would be really great is if people would call 214-736-3121 and leave their voice of who they'd like to see the Doctor and why. I can edit them all together and we can have an episode of doing that. So I think so let's do a classic episode. Let's do a speculative episode. And if the BBC, before we can record the speculative, announces who it is, we'll punt, right? So sounds good.
Yep, that sounds good.
Charles, how else can people give us feedback?
If they want to reach us like Holly, Paul, and Davia did, you can reach us at nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com. Or you can reach us on Facebook at Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. We always appreciate your comments there. And on Twitter at NextStopSMG on the Twitter machine. So please drop us a line there as well. And if you're not already liking us and following us on Facebook and Twitter, we definitely appreciate that. And we'd also appreciate if you would please rate us and subscribe to us on iTunes if you're not already doing so, because that helps people find us so we can grow Next Stop Everywhere and spread our influence throughout time and space.
Absolutely. I can be reached at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. American Gods, Roadside Attractions, that show has ended, but if you are playing catch up, those are available for you to talk about. That wonderful Brian Fuller, Neil Gaiman series. I continue to talk about Bruce Springsteen, and I'm in the middle of a series of newbie episodes where I give 10 Bruce Springsteen songs to someone who's willing to listen to them, and then they join the show and we discuss their thoughts on the show episode. We pick some kind of fairly obscure, if you're not a Springsteen devoted fan, and those have been really interesting so far. Coming up, we'll be talking Small Council Matters when Game of Thrones comes back, so that will be fun. Charles, how about you? Where can people hear you and find you?
Well, obviously, I'm at Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine and at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram. And Facebook, of course. Google Plus for all you crazy kids on the Google Plus. And my blog, Geeky Things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about Doctor Who and Next Stop Everywhere, and some Twin Peaks, of course, and some comic book and sci-fi goodness. Just posted some information on Luke Cage, Season 2 on Damn Good Coffee, so if you want to check that out. And then my other two podcasts, the Phantom Zone podcast that I do with friend of the show, Karen Lindsay, and Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, where we're reviewing the current Showtime revival of Twin Peaks The Return, and we're going to be hopefully episode 8. Actually, the part 8 will be available hopefully soon if Rob is kind enough to post it. So I think he's been off for the Independence Day weekend.
Yes.
So I'm willing to give him a little slack, but
absolutely
waiting patiently.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, listeners. This was a great discussion once we got on board.
Yeah, it took us a while to get it going, but once we got going.
Yeah, we were rolling along. And you don't give a synopsis, but what episode were you going to recommend we check out?
Well, I was going to recommend you check out Doomsday.
All right, so
the 13th episode, so it would be the Series 2 finale from Series 2 in 2006, written by Russell T. Davies, which, surprise, features the Cybermen.
So that might be an episode we discuss.
And is also a tearjerker.
So maybe we discuss that episode?
Maybe.
Just a thought? Okay, thinking about it?
Maybe.
All right. My closing quote this week is not from the doctor. It is from Rose Tyler, but it fits our theme. This is from Season 1, Episode 13, The Parting of Ways. And Rose Tyler says, "You don't just give up. You don't just let things happen. You make a stand. You say no. You have the guts to do what's right, even when everyone else just runs away."
Very nice, Jessica.
Very close to our theory of this thing. So
Exactly.
we appreciate everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.